Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. Hope you are all doing well. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all of that jazz. Today I'm joined by Neža. Neža, how are you?
Good morning, Sam. Yeah, I'm well. We were just discussing before we started recording about how busy it is on the market. I feel like we don't have a day off. Like it's happening all the time. Like, what about you, Sam?
Yeah, it is crazy. We joked and said it's been a boring couple of days, but in reality, yeah, there's no rest for the wicked. It feels you get to the Friday and you think, okay, great, it's the weekend, it's going to be nice and quiet, and then it isn't. And then Monday comes around, and obviously we'll talk about DeepSeek and what that's done to the markets. But it's an incredibly busy, week, regardless
Yeah.
of that, anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, we have all of the important earnings. We will obviously cover that as well. And also Fed meeting, ECB meeting, all of it happening in just 1 week. So there are so many factors that are impacting the market right now.
There is. And if we just think about what's the date today, the 29th of January, if we think about what's already happened this year, I mean, the first sort of few trading days of the year are always quiet, and they were. And then we have a week where, and I might get this a little bit wrong, but Monday, the first main Monday in January was good, then it was bad, then the market was flat, then the market was closed. And then we had the payrolls report, which was really good, which
Yeah.
sends markets lower. And then, of course, you have things like the Trump coin, you have the inauguration, you
TikTok
have,
ban among all of
oh,
it.
TikTok ban. Yeah, I mean, it just feels like we haven't even finished the month and we've got a whole year's
Yeah.
worth of stories and headlines. But I guess that's what makes it interesting, right? And, when I talk to people about financial markets and, I go and say, well, I love it because it's constantly changing. There's always a new headline. And do you feel the same? I mean, it's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's something that I really like about it because even though I maybe do similar tasks every day, like events are changing my everyday life like so much that it makes it interesting basically. And I really like that about it because you never know what you can expect the next day. And I think that's something that makes it special.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think it's an ever-changing world, and I guess it brings us to our first subject, which won't be too surprising for people listening to this to hear us talk about. We'll talk about DeepSeek, but just before we get into all of that, look, let's take you back to Monday morning. You wake up and you see what's going on, or maybe you saw a little bit of it on Sunday evening, but talk to me about just how you felt waking up and seeing what the markets were doing on Monday.
First, when I think of Monday, I feel like it was a year ago because so many things happened since then. But basically, I already shared my not so good habit of first thing in the morning that I check my phone. And this Monday was no different. And I already saw that something's happening because I saw Nasdaq futures down 3%. Then ASML was trading like 7% down. And I knew that something was happening. And I heard about DeepSeek a few days before, but I just didn't think that it could have such a big impact on the market. And when I opened X, I saw it overflooded with all of the announcements, all of the discussions, theories,
Yeah.
explanations about what's happening, and I instantly knew, yeah, that's what's going on. And yeah, it was just a major news because I think that the market was just waiting for something to grab something new. Like, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. But what I would say, X sometimes has a bad name for, amongst some people. I think it's a great news source.
Yeah.
And within 30, 40 minutes of scrolling, you become sort of well knowledged on a topic. There are people that I really respect giving an opinion of what's going on, and others as well. And I thought it was really quite interesting just to see how powerful it can be, that within 30, 40 minutes you've got like a base layer of knowledge about a situation. It just so happened that this was DeepSeek, and the market really fell out of bed, and it potentially started, I guess, on Sunday evening. I was, what was I doing? I can't even remember what I was doing Sunday, but I was on X as well, just sort of scrolling, and saw futures were down to begin with as DeepSeek was rising to the top of the download charts or whatever
Yeah.
on the App Store. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. Right, fine. It's a competitor essentially to other chat models, and AI is going to be affected. Fine, right? It'll be interesting to see what happens to Nvidia. And then you fast forward to the morning, and then it's really starting to go. And my first initial thought is, this is a little bit overdone, isn't it? I mean, this is crazy, but it kept going and it kept going. So, I mean, some of the stats, because I love a stat. By the end of Monday, Nvidia raised $590 billion in value, which is the most by any company in market history. It just so happened that yesterday
Oh,
it rose like 200 billion, which is the third most ever. And then the S&P 500, which lost on the day about 1.5%, which actually isn't that much, but it lost 1.5%. But more than 300 of the stocks within the S&P 500, they rose. And then since the index became a 500 stock index in 1957, this has never happened before. The only days where there had been more than 250 advances, while the S&P 500 was down 1.5%, were April the 14th and 19th in 1999, and then April the 12th, 2000, which of course was a very tricky period in financial markets. And a lot of these crazy days, you hear, oh, this is the first time it's happened since 2000 or 2008, and you think, oh God, that's a worrying sign. But I'll be honest, it did feel overdone. I really, really do. I mean, just to do it very simply, I guess for those that don't already know, DeepSeek introduced a new AI model called R1, which is similar to ChatGPT, but claims to be, or their claims suggest that it was far less expensive to produce. And this really caught the market by storm and surprise, because it sort of challenged the notion that only US companies could lead in high cost AI development. Um, what were your initial thoughts? Did you think a little overdone,
I mean,
at the beginning?
I think it was overdone because, nevertheless, all of those numbers that we got about cost of development and all of the chips that they used for development, nothing is for sure, to be honest. We don't
Yeah.
have all of the data, and I think that the market reacted too irrational, impulsive, and the instant reaction was just too overdone. At least I think so. And we saw how it rebounded yesterday. So I just think that when something like this happens on the market, you just have to know that this is a situation that you cannot expect. I mean, you have to know that this can happen, and it's a matter of time, not of if it will happen. But when it does, like, you have to take a look at the bigger picture. What does it mean? And maybe, just maybe, it was just too overdone, because there is still a lot of skepticism around the app, because many experts are questioning whether development costs are truly,
Yeah.
they include everything, because basically they use like $6 million for all of the development, and on the other hand, OpenAI used more than $100 million for developing ChatGPT. So does it really include all of the research, infrastructure, and operational expenses? And then there are also questions about trust and security, because nevertheless, the app comes from China, and there are worries about are there any potential hidden vulnerabilities? So all of those are some of the concerns that people have. And I think that nevertheless, this is a disruptor, and I think that competition is healthy, because we see all of the high valuations among US tech companies, and they have to keep justifying those high valuations if we want to see them rise even more. And as you said, many companies in the index were still up even on Monday.
Yeah.
But we see how high concentration is for the big tech companies, those companies that are in the AI. And because of that, we saw the fall of the indices.
Yeah, I mean the headline I saw probably midday UK time yesterday. I'm just going to scroll on my Twitter now just to get it. Retail investors bought a record 562 million Nvidia stock during Monday's DeepSeek-led rout, according to some research provider, which was quite telling, I thought, and I thought quite smart to the retail crowd. Well done. And of course, yesterday was a good day. And by the time people listen to this, it could be near the end of the day, it could be later in the week. But I do feel that Nvidia does recover from here. I at the time, I could understand why maybe Nvidia comes under a bit of pressure. The market hates uncertainty, and
Yeah.
yes, people were always dubious when it comes to China and data. And I remember being on a trading floor, and whenever you would get Chinese GDP data, you'd be like, is it actually what they're saying? But it's interesting, isn't it? I saw a few conspiracy theories doing the rounds, and of course, it's Chinese New Year now, isn't it? The year of the snake. So they have a holiday there, and the markets are closed and whatever. But one of the conspiracy theories is, DeepSeek is created by this hedge fund in China, isn't it? And they were supposedly going to obviously release this and get it to the top of the charts, but at the same time short Nvidia, and they would have made a fortune on it, which I thought was a good conspiracy, but probably and realistically very unlikely. But yeah, I mean, like you said, the security concerns were there. I mean, it wasn't too long until you could only use DeepSeek if you were from China, right? If you were in the UK or in Europe or America and you tried to download it, it
Did you
wasn't
try
possible.
to register?
Do you know what I didn't? I messaged a friend who he's been recently looking at language models for long form writing to get the best one, and he's actually, funny enough, thinks that Gemini is better for that than ChatGPT. But anyway, I messaged him in the morning, go, look, this thing called DeepSeek has come out, even though of course it's been out for some time, but it's come out. People are saying it's pretty good, you should give it a go. And he didn't listen to my advice, or rightly or wrongly, and then it wasn't until the evening he goes, I just downloaded it, I can't get on. And I obviously
Yeah.
explained the situation. But no, I didn't have a play around with it. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to. I wanted to try it
Yeah.
out, but when I tried to register, it was kind of funny. Like I couldn't get in, and then I saw that they were
Yeah.
under many attacks, and they like limited number of registrations. But it looked kind of sketchy, to be honest.
Yeah, it did. It did. And I think that's why, and I've seen screenshots of people putting it on X and say it couldn't do simple sort of questions. I thought, oh God, this just feels overblown. And if anything, if we can do things cheaper and quicker, this is a net positive for the
Yeah.
markets. This is great. And it just felt this didn't quite make sense. But I saw quite a good video on Monday, and it was actually like someone massively pro Bitcoin, and the whole argument was nothing else matters but Bitcoin. But anyway, what they were saying in the build up made a little bit of sense, in that they were talking about whatever industry it is, whoever that leader is, and for chip makers and all of this, you have an AI, you have Nvidia at the top. For every other company, or for every aspiring company, that's a bounty. That percentage of market cap is a bounty to be taken. So Nvidia is always going to have a target on their head, and it might
Yeah.
be that over the next few months or years, someone does come and blow them out of the water, and Nvidia comes under pressure, and whatever. I mean, at the moment, Nvidia still seems to be the leader, well set, and I do think it's going to recover. I mean, potentially even by the end of the week, the way that market can move. But interesting day yesterday, fascinating day on Monday. I mean, are we ever going to get a quiet day
I
again, do
think
you
so.
think? No, I don't think so either. And look, it's you mentioned at the beginning, it's a massive week for earnings, isn't it? I mean, are there any in particular that you're really looking forward to?
I mean, we already had like AT&T and T and Starbucks reporting.
Yeah.
I saw ASML earnings this morning and I just checked, it's up 10%. But yeah,
How did Starbucks get on? I saw someone tweeted last night saying it was unsurprisingly average, and after hours, it's pretty much
if I remember correctly,
flat.
same-store sales growth were down, but overall earnings were pretty good. I think that they exceeded
Okay.
expectations on revenue side and also earnings per share.
I mean, they're up 33% in the last 6 months. I think, obviously the new CEO's come in. Is it Brian Nicole? I think his name is. Is
Yeah,
that right? And
they're
okay, maybe it does look like, if you have a couple of solid earnings reports, the recovery could well be on there, isn't it? It's not miles away from, that high back in 2021, trading at $100, 120. Okay, the recovery's been good, to be honest, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Anyway, what are you looking forward to this week?
I mean, I think that markets will obviously focus more on big tech earnings because we
Yeah.
have like even today after
Yeah.
market, we have Tesla, we have Meta, we have Microsoft, we have IBM. And then tomorrow we have Apple, Intel, Visa, MasterCard. So it's like, where do I even start? And in between, we have Fed meeting. So it's so much happening. But for me, I think that I'm really looking forward to Meta and Apple probably, because
Mm,
from Meta we are expecting today, and I think that the market will focus on their massive AI spending and how and if it's already paying off. Because even last week I saw some news that Mark Zuckerberg shared that Meta plans to spend between 60 and 65 billion US dollars on AI infrastructure in 2025. So that's just enormous year over year increase. And I think that a market will obviously listen what they have to say about AI. And the other one is Apple. I mean, we
yeah.
covered Apple last week. We talked about how they're lagging behind a bit and they're down like what 8% year to date. So I think that they will have to address those concerns about China and
Yeah.
whether there's some news about it. I think that market is really looking forward to that. They're still one of the big companies, but they seem to lag behind a bit right now, and some positive news would be much appreciated. What about you? Any other companies besides big tech that you're looking forward to?
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I actually was looking at Starbucks just to see what they've done. And the reason being is obviously they had that CEO change, and I
Yeah.
wanted to see whether that you can get that follow through, because I want to see what happens with Nike. Now they've got their new CEO. I want to see things start to improve, and it's good to see that it can be done in recent times. New CEO comes in, market stabilizes, share price rises. Okay, Nike, now it's over to you to do something similar. But yeah, same. I'll be keeping a close eye on Tesla. I think since the inauguration, it hasn't had a positive day in
Really?
markets, which shocked me. Yeah, I mean, over the last six months, it's up 81%, but since the inauguration, apparently no green day, which is what it is. But that's always going to be a fascinating report to see how that comes out, and that will take a lot of attention later on. Apple as well, for like you said, I'm really keen to see what happens there. It's been a sort of magnificent seven laggard over the last 6 months, to be honest, along with Microsoft. So Apple, Microsoft, I want to see what goes on there. And then Friday, it's always a Friday, isn't it? But you have Exxon and Chevron that always report on the same day. I'll be keeping a close eye on that. That'll be before the market opens, as all earnings are on a Friday. But also, you did mention you've got other stuff coming out this week.
Yeah.
Today, you've got the Risk Bank central bank meeting. You've got Bank of Canada, both expected to raise cut rates by 25 basis points. And then you've got the Federal Reserve. We're not expecting anything in terms
No.
of rate cuts, and I think that would be very, very unwise for them to make any move there. But rate expectations have changed so much already
Yeah.
this year. You've had, strong jobs report, and it's like, okay, there's not going to be a full rate cut priced in until way into the back end of the year. Then you've got others saying there's not even going to be a rate cut at all. And then you have a cool inflation report, which is basically in line, by the way. And then it's like, okay, now we might have some. And then Monday, when the market's falling out of bed, it's like, we've now got 2 rate cuts this year. So, honestly, it's a tough job, isn't it? I mean, the
Yeah.
start of the year, if you're the Fed and you're about to do this press conference, I think you've just got to keep it very close to your chest what's going on, because in reality, you probably actually don't know what's going on, do
No,
you?
because there are so many unexpected events that can just affect. But I think that any comments can basically affect where market goes, at least on a short run. By the way, I really liked your comment about CEOs, because we have few companies right now that change CEO.
Yeah.
There's Starbucks, and Brian Nicole is from Chipotle, right? So he
Chipotle, yeah.
has experience. He has experience in the industry. Then we also have Nike. They have new CEO that's been with the company for decades, basically.
Yeah.
And I also saw that Ulta changed their CEO, and I don't know her name at the moment, but I checked a week ago, and she's also from the industry and she has experience. So maybe we will have some changes in companies that have been lagging behind a bit, but they
Yeah.
have new leadership with experiences in the field. So I think that,
Yeah, and I think when you do get a new CEO, it does just feel like a breath of fresh air.
yeah,
There's no guarantee,
yeah,
of course, it does work, but it does feel, and from Nike's perspective, and I know this isn't a way to value a company, but I'm really liking their new gear for the first time in a while. Like I play
likewise.
tennis, and I'm a sucker for only playing in Nike gear. And I was on the internet the other day, typed in Nike tennis, and I'm like, wow, this stuff is nice. And they're bringing out football boots again, which are nice. And it feels like they're just making a bit of a change on that base
Yeah.
ground level, and maybe that filters through.
Yeah.
But of course, the proof will be in the pudding, and they need to pick
We
up.
have
But yeah,
another one. We have PayPal, because it's not a new change, but they have a CEO who had an experience before from Intuit, I think. And he
yeah,
proved that new CEO can make a change if they have experience in the field. So maybe we will see
yeah.
that with those companies as well.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, busy week, busy week. I mean, some of the earnings before the open, as you mentioned, ASML would come out, T-Mobile, and then tomorrow before the open, UPS, Mastercard, incredible. Nokia as well, Southwest, Caterpillar. Jesus,
We should have
busy.
another episode on Friday.
I know, literally, it's going to feel like that. But look, Neža, we'll wrap it there for today. In a week's time, honestly, who
Who
knows what
knows?
is going to happen? Who knows? Thank you very much for joining.
See you guys.
Take care.